SWKKF Tournament Scorekeeping Online Training, presented by the Judging Training Committee. This presentation has been developed to provide training for individuals that will act as scorekeepers or table workers at SWKKF-sanctioned tournaments. The presentation references the SWKKF Judging Training Manual, which is published on the SWKKF website at shintani.ca. The Table Worker section of the manual focuses specifically on the roles and responsibilities of individuals assigned as table workers. There are various formats that exist and are permitted for SWKKF tournaments, but this training is based on the format that is used for the SWKKF National Tournament, where all competitors are guaranteed 2 matches in the Kumite competitions. The paperwork and documentation is consistent with that used for the national tournament. In order to be recognized as a certified scorekeeper or table worker, there are specific requirements that must be met. If you are a registered SWKKF member, you must be at least 14 years of age or a blue belt. If you are a volunteer who is not an SWKKF member, you must be an adult. In addition, candidates must complete either this web-based training or an in-person training. When table workers are assigned and report to a ring, they should introduce themselves to the other table workers as well as to the center referee, who they will refer to as sensei, meaning instructor. The table workers should then take an inventory of table supplies, which should include the following: a copy of the SWKKF tournament rules, including a kata list, tournament information, including medal and trophy information, and any special events, kumite supplies, including flags, red sash, score and warning cards, and a stopwatch, kata supplies, including scorecards and a calculator. Table supplies should also include tournament paperwork, including kata sheets, kumite draw sheets, and result sheets. This will also include receiving a list of the competitors for that event in the division information package or event folder. Pens and pencils, SWKKF approved kumite equipment with spare gloves being recommended, medals and or trophies, and first aid supplies. Finally, the event folder or division information package at your table should include the following: the division, a list of competitors on a kata sheet, kumite sheets, which will be brought to the table once the number of competitors has been confirmed, and result sheets. Now let's look at your roles and responsibilities. A minimum of 2 table workers are required at each table. The preference, whenever possible, is to assign 3 individuals to allow relief, as well as someone that can be a runner to support table work, and the opportunity to mentor new table workers. Table workers must decide in advance and delegate responsibilities as follows. Table worker 1 will announce competitors for kata and kumite. For example, John is up and Sarah is on deck. They will also read out loud the judges' scores. Table worker 2 will record and calculate the scores. For kumite, there are additional responsibilities. Table worker 1 will time the match for 2 minutes on a stopwatch and announce time loudly and clearly to the center judge at 2 minutes. The stopwatch is never stopped before the 2 minutes unless the center judge tells table worker 1 to do so. Table worker 1 also indicates the points on the scoreboard. Table worker 2 will record all points, warnings, and disqualifications on the kumite sheet. The center judge will allocate one competitor as red, or aka, and place a red flag on that competitor's back. This competitor's name must be recorded as red, or aka, on the kumite sheet. The first competitor to be awarded 3 points wins the match. Please make sure that you verify the winner's name with the center judge before moving on to the next match. Transfer the names of winners and losers into appropriate boxes on the kumite draw sheet until the sheet is completed and you are able to determine a first, second, and third place winner. If the first, second, or third place winner is disqualified, then there will only be a first and second place winner. A competitor from side B does not move over into third place. Please note, no food and drink other than water or unauthorized electronic devices are allowed at the table during a competition. Now let's look at your roles and responsibilities in more detail. To begin the event, the table worker does the following. Completes a roll call for competitors to ensure all competitors are present and have been assigned to the correct ring. Record the competitors' full names on the kata sheet and confirm if competitors are entered in kata only, kumite only, or both events. Determine which kumite sheets will be required for the event. For example, if girls and boys are fighting separately, 2 sheets will be needed. As well, the total numbers in each kumite ring will need to be determined to select the correct kumite sheets. Here is what a kata sheet looks like. In this example, you can see the list of competitors, and each is checked off on the left side of the sheet as either doing only kata, like Tyler, only kumite, like Tabitha, or both, like Sarah and Chris. To the necessary information on the kata sheet, first, record the names of all judges at the bottom of the page, starting with the center referee and proceeding in a clockwise direction around the ring. Next, record the names of all table workers. Let the center judge know when you have your paperwork ready to go so they can start the event. Here you will see where the names of the judges are to be written, indicated by the red circled area. The name of the center referee goes in the slot for judge number 1. The rest of the judges' names, number 2 through 5, should be recorded in a clockwise fashion, going from the right side of the center judge and around the ring. You will see beside this area, at the bottom right of the page, the spot for table workers' names to be written in. In this example, Tabitha's area for recording kata scores has been scratched out because she is only doing kumite. With your paperwork completed, you are now ready to begin the event for kata. To begin the event, the first 3 competitors are called up one at a time, perform their kata, and leave by bowing as they exit from the ring. Then, each one of these 3 is called into the ring again, one at a time, to receive their scores. When the center judge says "scores up," you begin to read each score out loud and clearly by beginning with the score of the center judge. Please note that as katas are being performed first and then scores recorded afterwards, the table worker needs to call out scores slowly and start each time with the center judge, moving to the next judge's score in a clockwise manner. That is, starting with judge number 1, moving to judge number 2, and so on until judge number 5. The general steps to this process are as follows. Begin by calling up the competitor and announce the next or on-deck competitor's name. Once the first competitor has completed their kata, the center referee will call for scores. Starting with the center referee, one table worker will call out the scores clearly and at an even pace to allow the second table worker time to record the result on the kata sheet. The table worker will continue to call out scores in a clockwise direction until the scores from all 5 judges are recorded. The table worker will then call the next competitor and announce the on-deck competitor. The competitor who has just finished their kata will now bow out of the ring and bow in the next competitor. This sequence continues until all competitors have completed their kata. As has already been mentioned, it should be noted that typically 3 competitors will perform their katas prior to any scores being announced, to allow the judges opportunity to gauge the performance level of the division. Once the first 3 competitors have performed their katas, they are called back one at a time to receive their respective scores, and the event then continues until all competitors have performed and received scores. The table worker, who has been assigned the responsibility of recording the results, will now remove the high and low scores for the competitor and record the total of the 3 remaining scores in the high-low column. Once the high-low scores are recorded for all competitors and have been tabulated, the table workers will determine first, second, and third place. If there is a tie score, then the high and low scores are added back in to break the tie. If there is still a tie after the high-low total of 5 results, the competitors will perform their kata again, and the judges will have a show of hands to break the tie. The results of the event will now be transferred to the results sheet. Let's take a look at an example kata sheet. Here is an example of the first competitor's scores. Here is an example with the high and low scores removed and the total for the high-low column calculated. Here is an example with all competitors' scores calculated, showing Sarah as first place and Chris and Tyler as tied for second place. This example shows that when the high and low scores were added back in and this total calculated, that Tyler placed second and Chris third. This is an example of the results sheet that you will need to complete next. Please note that all the areas on this sheet need to be filled in. This includes selecting kata rather than kumite, denoting the name of the division, typically denoted by rank, for example, yellow belts, and age range, for example, 8 to 9 years, and so on. Now we will move on to the kumite portion of this division. Some important points to remember are: you will need to obtain the necessary kumite sheet based on the overall number of competitors confirmed for the event. Kumite sheets have been developed and approved for anywhere from 2 to 16 competitors. Examples are included in this presentation for 4 competitors and 10 competitors, strictly for training purposes. But the process is essentially the same for all numbers of competitors. You will need to let the center judge know when you are ready to start. Please be accurate in the timing of matches with the stopwatch and in recording all information on the Kumite sheet. You will need to call the first 2 competitors up and the second 2 competitors on deck. Use the official scorekeeping boards for all warnings and points. Ensure that all disqualifications, or DQs, are recorded on the Kumite sheet and that you have confirmed which type or level of DQ has been sanctioned. This will determine if a competitor can move on to the next fight or not. That is, if they have only fought once so far and they will continue to a second fight on side B of the Kumite sheet, or if they are disqualified from the event. If this is their second fight, they do not move on to any more fights. Also record all warnings. Let's now look at the Kumite sheet. This is an example of a Kumite sheet for 4 competitors. We will use this for our discussion to follow. All Q-Belt Kumite events are guaranteed 2 fights. This means that when a competitor loses their first fight, they are moved to the B side of this Kumite sheet because they have only had 1 fight so far. If a competitor loses their second fight or any fights after that point, they are finished in this event. Thus, every competitor gets to fight a minimum of 2 times before they are eliminated from the event. At the end of the event, you will designate who was the first, second, and third place winner. Please note that all black belt Kumite events are double elimination. This is a very different Kumite sheet and scenario. The Kumite sheets for double elimination are very self-explanatory. Just follow the arrows and instructions. Let's go through an event to see how to fill out the Kumite sheet properly. See the red circled area. This is where you need to fill in all the information about the event. Here is an example of the information required, which is important to complete. Again, in this example, we are looking at an event for 4 competitors. Record the competitor's full name in the bold, highlighted boxes in the center of the page. It is important that for the first round of competition, competitors from different clubs are matched up wherever possible to enhance the competition. In the case of a 4-competitor event, there will be 4 bold boxes. For 10-competitor events, there will be 10 bold boxes, and so on. Here is an example that shows how points and warnings are recorded by each competitor's name. Each match is numbered so you know who is on deck. For example, in this case with Kelsey and Tommy up first, it is Peter and Mary on deck. This example shows 2 red circled areas. On the right, we see side A, where the winners from match 1 and 2 will go. And on the left, we see side B, where the losers of match 1 and 2 will be written. This example shows the next stage of this competition, where on B side, if Peter was not disqualified from the event, he would fight Tommy in match number 3. Kelsey and Mary will fight in match number 4 for first place. This example shows that the winner in match number 3 on the B side moves down to section C of the Kumite sheet. See the left side red circled area of the page. And the winner of match number 4 shows who won first place. Note that the loser of match number 4 is then placed in section C to fight for second and third place of this event. In this example, Kelsey won their match and is given first place for the event. Tommy and Mary, now in section C, fight for second and third place. In this example, whoever won section C is given second place, also called silver, and the loser of section C gets third place or bronze. On the right side of the page, the red circled area shows where all 3 names of people and their places are recorded. Here is another look at who won in each of the 3 placements of this event. Here is a look at what the fully completed Kumite sheet looks like. Similar to the kata event, you will need to complete the results sheet with all the necessary information. It is critical that the results sheets are written neatly with all areas filled in. These results sheets are given to the center judge for awarding the medals to the competitors. Here is an example of a Kumite sheet for 10 competitors. You will need to follow all the same procedures that we just went through on the sheet for 4 competitors, just with more fights to get to the end and to the results sheet. Remember to fill in all information. Write each competitor's name in one of the bold black boxes, starting with the center section. In this example, you will see 4 bolded black boxes in the center. Then, the next 6 names go in the bold black boxes under A side. After that, you will follow all procedures for calling the names for match 1 and names on deck for match 2, as previously. You will complete this Kumite sheet to the end, where first, second, and third places have been determined. It is important to note that in section C, if one of these competitors gets disqualified, there will only be a first and second place. You never go back to the Kumite sheet to find another person to be third place. Some tips to think about while scorekeeping include ensuring that you keep the center judge informed at all times. For example, if you need help or if you discover that an error has been made. Ensure the results sheets are completed and medals are laid out with the results sheets for easy access for the center judges at the end of the competition. Ensure that all paperwork is completed neatly, in full, and placed back into the events folder for safekeeping. Here is the list of terminology that the center judge will be using throughout the event. The expectation in Kumite is that when the center judge makes a call, for example, Sera Aka or Shiro Ippon, you repeat it back to the center judge to confirm that you heard it. Try to learn this terminology. On behalf of the Judging Training Committee and the SWKKF, we would like to thank you for giving this valuable time to learn scorekeeping and for volunteering at our tournaments. Truly, we cannot do this without you. Thank you so much for your time.